Gators Breakdown, episode 28, live on the air on YouTube, and you can catch it later on. If you're listening now, you'll probably listen on SoundCloud or iTunes, TuneIn Radio, but as always, you can catch it live on YouTube. So I'll send out the links, and you can catch it on there. If you're following me on Twitter, I'll usually send out the links before I go live, and you can check them out there. But like I mentioned, you can also find them on SoundCloud, YouTube, TuneIn Radio. Like it, share it, comment, however you want to look at that. But Gators Breakdown, going to take a couple looks at the hot topics going around right now. Of course, Jarret Stidham update. Not much to update, but there is a little bit of news out there. Jordan Cronkrite, running back from Florida, transferring. And I'm going to take a look at Zachary and Malik Davis, start doing a little bit of recruiting profiles for probably some signees that will or commits that will more likely sign with the Gators. And of course, any recruiting news comes along. But season's over, so a lot of it's just a lot of speculation for news right now. And we'll get transfer news as well. Cronkrite, the only one as of now who may be leaving as far as transfers goes. But there probably will be some more. But of course, big news. Gator fans all week, pretty much the last 2 weeks, ever since the Florida State game, where Jim McElwain called Jarret Stidham to see how much interest he'd have on Florida. That has been kind of dominating the news lately for Gator fans here. So, latest on Jarret Stidham, still no official word from him if he will update or if he will visit Florida this coming weekend. So this podcast is being recorded on Thursday night. So still no word. You would think you'd have to make a decision, of course, in the next day or so. You would hope he would be on campus all weekend, with especially, Alex Leatherwood's coming in, big-time offensive line recruit. You would hope he could visit the same time as him. But, Stidham would have to make the decision soon. Not much is out there if he's going to visit or not. I've heard through the grapevine that he won't visit, and he has no. He's been saying that he is not going to visit, but nothing official from him. We have not heard from Jarret Stidham whether he is going to visit or not. We saw some tweets of saying how it's just a tough decision he's going to make coming up, but that's really all we have. But there was a article on ESPN. He did sit down with ESPN. So this early Thursday, Jarret Stidham told ESPN, honestly, it's so up in the air right now. So Florida's giving him some things to think about. It looks like Auburn is in the clubhouse lead still, if you ask me right now. And pretty much what he said about Auburn is they've been with me from the start, from day one when all of this went down. They've been good to me. Some other teams have also been good to me. It's just a matter of time until everything happens. And he seems to have a really good relationship with Auburn offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley. So Stidham on Lashley. He's a great dude. I've gotten to know him a lot over this semester. Really solid dude. I've probably gotten to know Coach Lashley the most. I've seen him the most. But, of course, Florida's still in the picture. I think the way it looks right now, Florida has given him something to think about when Jim McElwain and Doug Neismeier went to visit him. Still kind of weird that we should have heard by now, I think, if he was going to visit Florida. If he's not going to visit, we will find out, the next day or so. As I mentioned, this is Thursday night. He would have to make a decision by Friday, maybe early Saturday, to take the trip to Gainesville. The dead period starts Monday for recruiting, so he has to visit this weekend. You would think for Florida to feel comfortable, Jarret Stidham will be a Gator. So what's going to happen, we don't know. Still don't really know much more than we knew earlier in the week. But as of now, Jarret Stidham is not visiting Florida. It looks like he's probably still considering Florida. And the wild card here is wherever the Briles, Art Briles, and his son Kendall Briles end up. He's still Stidham even told ESPN, Kendall Briles was his offensive coordinator at Baylor. KB is my dude. I'm super tight with him. I still talk to him all the time. I'm still waiting to see what happens with him and where he might go, and just take that into consideration. I think it's very up in the air, like this whole situation is, if the Browns even get a job anywhere in college football. The reputation of that last name right now is not very high on the list of some fans. Can't be very high in the college football world, the coaching world, with what went on there. Art Briles, don't get me wrong, very respected head coach on the field. Would have to think everything off the field now is a really bad taste in the mouth of some of the college football world. And I know some Gator fans were saying, "Oh, if it means we can get Stidham, I'd bring Kendall Briles in." No, I want nobody associated with that Baylor program on the Florida program. That is an ugly stain. You don't know who was involved with the rape allegations and covering up rape and all that stuff that went on at Baylor. I'm sorry, I don't think. Believe me, I'm more of a win kind of at all cost type of fan, but I still draw a line in the sand, and that's one I don't think I will cross. That was deplorable what Baylor did, and even after Art Briles got fired, you saw a lot. I mean, of course, it's his son; he's going to defend his dad, but there's still a lot of ugly things that went on with them, how they supported Art Briles and didn't think he should have been fired. And I mean, there's a lot of evidence that proves that stuff went on at Baylor. So the Briles name coming to Florida, I wouldn't look for that just to get Jarret Stidham. It's going to be Jarret Stidham's decision based off of what Doug Nussmeier, Jim McElwain can show him on film, how he can fit into this offense, and to see if he will be coming to Gainesville or not. But look for Auburn. I still think to get it done with Stidham, I don't see, many analysts have come out and said if Stidham would probably just look out a little bit how Florida is the best fit for him. Of course he doesn't have the relationship that he has with Auburn and the Briles folks, but I think if he wants to come in and make an immediate impact and be on a team that could probably go to the East again with him at quarterback, he should be coming to Florida. But we'll see how that goes. So that's it for Jarret Stidham right now. Not much more, but we'll move on from that. Big news on Thursday. So whenever you listen to this, Jordan Cronkrite, it was announced on Thursday that he is going to transfer from Florida. The school announced that on Thursday. He will receive his official release from the Gators. Received his official release from the Gators on Tuesday. And is hoping to enroll at his next school in January, where he'll have 3 years to play. He'll have 3 years to play, 2 seasons remaining. So, according to Ryan Bartow of 24/7. So, it's kind of weird how everything went down with Jordan Cronkrite. He was only the 4th leading rusher. He only collected 145 yards and a touchdown on 31 carries this year. Behind Jordan Scarlett, behind Michael Pirine, behind Mark Thompson even. So Scarlett led the way with 165 carries, 811 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Pirine, 84 carries, 416 yards, 1 touchdown, and Thompson, 66 carries, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns. They all had more carries and yards than Cronkrite this season, and it's kind of odd how it worked out because Cronkrite, he was pegged to be the starter after being the most consistent back in spring and fall camp. Even early in the season, he looked to be the guy. As the season went on, in the 4-man rotation, it was kind of clear that Scarlett and Pirine were the backs that were producing the best. Cronkrite got injured, and there kind of some rumors of him quitting the team and deciding whether he wanted to play or not. He didn't record any stats in the Georgia game. He didn't even travel that game. In LSU, he didn't record any stats the LSU game either. So he only had 5 carries and 8 receptions the last 5 games of the season. So the writing was kind of on the wall there, I think, for Jordan Cronkrite to transfer out of Florida. I was on a radio show in Arkansas, and then I hadn't even really thought much about transfers, but I was asked, Pat Jenkins radio there in Arkansas, if there were any players I thought would transfer. The question kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but Jordan and I answered with Jordan Cronkrite. To me, it kind of seemed obvious, and then a day later, it is announced that he is going to transfer from Florida. I don't think this is a big loss for Florida. The biggest loss that Cronkrite brought to the team was he was the best blocking running back that Florida had, and definitely in passing situations. We saw Jordan Scarlett struggle with that, especially in the FSU game there, and Cronkrite, that's what he excelled at. and he was a good pass catcher out of the backfield. But for some reason, it just didn't click this season, even though he looked to be the starting running back coming into this season. So I went into the season thinking he was the best all-around back Florida had. I really liked what Jordan Scarlett could bring to the table, but we didn't necessarily see it until this season with his tough, hard-nosed running. There was no way with the way Cronkrite was playing behind Scarlett and Pirine that he was really going to get many more carries above those guys with the way they were performing. And, you got two potential freshmen coming in. Malik Davis, I'll talk about him later, and maybe Darius Lemons if he gets back in the fold for Florida. So that's two more guys you're bringing in, and McElwain's already proved he's not afraid to play young freshmen back. So I just really think the writing was on the wall for Jordan Cronkrite to get out, get a fresh start somewhere. He's still a good back. He still can make something happen for himself and go, hopefully turn his career around and make a statement somewhere. So Jordan Cronkrite transferring from Florida, the school announced Thursday. And, like I said, I don't think it will hurt Florida too much. They got plenty of depth there and plenty coming in. So we'll turn the page on the Jordan Cronkrite career at Florida with Jim McElwain's statement there. We wish Jordan Cronkrite nothing but the best, and we'll do everything we can to support and assist him and help him get what he wants. So what we're going to do coming up here on Gators Breakdown, we'll start breaking down some recruits, some commits that Florida has, and you'll be able to catch these on future Gators Breakdown episodes as well. As I mentioned, if you don't mind sharing Gators Breakdown, it really helps us out a lot here. For the shows we do, you can catch us, as I mentioned, right now, if you're watching now, live on YouTube. And then I will put these podcasts up, audio versions, as soon as the show is over with, as soon as I can. It will be on SoundCloud and iTunes for you guys to listen and share. If you don't mind, subscribe and review somewhere. I think you can review on iTunes. So some reviews definitely would help there if you guys don't mind pushing that out just a little bit. So first two guys I'm going to dive into for Florida on the recruiting trail and the commitment list right now. Zachary Carter and Malik Davis heading down to the Tampa Hillsboro area. And we'll start with Zachary Carter first. From Tampa, Florida, Hillsboro, strong side defensive end, 6'4", 6'5"-ish, weighs 250, 4'9", 40. Be class of 2017, of course. He's a 4-star, 130th overall player in the nation, and the 4th at the strong side defensive end position. To me, I don't think anybody will disagree as of right now, he's the highest profile recruit Florida has. He has offers from all the big-time schools, and one of them recently being Alabama. He said he would take that trip to there in Oregon coming up, but I don't think the Gators have anything to worry about there. Many thought he would end up at Clemson before he chose Florida, but he's been recruiting for Florida pretty good. If he's following him on social media, he's very pro-Gator, and he's even hinted at some signing day surprises for the Gators and maybe a commitment or more than that soon. He last visited Gainesville for the South Carolina game. I think his potential is pretty evident. He can probably get better at his technique, but so can a lot of young guys. But his explosiveness off the ball, and he can just really beat the opposing blocker on the other side from him with just pure quickness. But of course, you have to get better there. But he's a young guy. And kind of, I remember Carlos Dunlap coming in from Florida, and kind of that same. Not necessarily the same build, but that's kind of how he was. He just wanted to come in and bull rush everybody, use his speed. And that's kind of what you see from Carter right now. He has a massive reach. He can disengage blockers pretty easy, and he gets his hands up. That's another thing that he doesn't necessarily get the sack. That's one knock against him, is that he doesn't necessarily have the big-time recruit sack numbers, but he causes a lot of havoc. He gets in the backfield, and when he gets back there, puts his hands up, and he can knock the ball down a good bit from when the opposing team's passes. That's what you can see on film there. He probably would have to come in, pack on some weight, get to 3-4, slide inside a little bit in a 4-3. But the good thing is he could probably show some versatility and play in the 3-4, 4-3, like Florida likes to bring in, guys to do. CC Jefferson comes to mind first, where he can play inside, outside. So I think you could probably look for Carter to come in and maybe take over a little bit for what Jefferson does. But if he comes in and does what he does best, he's versatile. That's what Florida's going to be looking for from him. And even in his high school time, the defensive alignments, there were a variety there. You don't see that a lot in high school, but he had positions in a 4-3 and a 3 form, in a 3 form. But there's exotic looks there. Will probably have Carter ahead of the curve mentally going into the season. So I don't think he'll play as a freshman. I think it would be best to redshirt him, get a little bit of pounds on. But I kind of thought the same thing for Antonius Clayton, and Florida found a way to squeeze him in a little bit this year. So it's like I said, he could get better at probably rushing the passer for pure sack numbers. But like I mentioned, he can disrupt the play. He's an explosive guy, and if Florida, he's probably going to come in with his first year, be more of a situational type of player. I kind of like Jabari Zuniga, I think, in a way to where comes in, gets sack numbers, maybe, and then kind of builds his overall game from there. I think that's what you can look for after he redshirts, or maybe he can get it done as a freshman. I don't think there's a big need for him to come in and play right away. But who knows? We've seen how Florida can go through injuries this past year. We'll never know what of course, you can't forecast that, but the way those things happen, who knows if he could come in and play right away if that opportunity presented itself. So that was a review of a little bit of Zachary Carter from the Tampa area. And now we'll go to Malik Davis, big-time running back, I think, who's getting better. Fans kind of fell in love with him because they know how good he is from that Tampa area, the all-time leading rusher in that area. He got better as the season went on. You started seeing other services out there, some recruiting services that are actually giving him a 4th star after he was a 3-star with 5'11", 190, 3-star composite on 24/7. He's a national 512th best player, 70th in the state of Florida, and 32 at the position of running back. He's a hard commit, definitely for Florida right now. Recruited by Chris Rumpf there. So, it's going to be – he didn't have the big-time offers. I don't – what you would consider big-time offers in Arizona, Colorado State, Georgia Southern, Illinois, Indiana. Louisville was in there, Virginia Tech, South Florida, UCF, Pitt. Pitt has a good history of running backs there. But Davis, he really shows a lot there. He's ran a 40-yard dash in 4.43 and about a 4.03 shuttle at Friday Night Lights. Led his Tigers team to the 5A state semifinals, an average of 12.7 yards per carry, and rushed for 2,534 yards and 33 touchdowns as a senior. As I mentioned, he's the all-time leading rusher, Hillsborough County, where he played against some pretty good competition. He was going to choose between Miami and North Carolina until Florida offered late October, and he jumped on the commitment almost right away. He's a versatile back. I think the coaching staff thinks he can be an every down back. I think he can pack on some more size, but he already does a good job of running through some tackles. Doesn't get brought down easy. But for that to continue in the SEC, I think he might need a little bit more weight because, yes, it's easier to do it in high school than it is in the SEC, of course. We know that. But he does a good job of running through some arm tackles of how he plays right now. Of course, competition ramps up in the SEC. But at 180 pounds, I think you'll have to tackle on a little bit more if he wants to continue his style of play that he did in high school. I think what helps him the most, he's a really good pass catcher out of the backfield. And I think that's still something Jim McElwain and Doug Nussmeier want to put in this offense. with the running back pass game, screen game, however you want to go back. And if you go back and look at his film, I mean, his offensive line helped him a lot. There's some big holes opened up there, but he hits the hole hard. There's no dancing around. He has great speed, and once he gets there in the open field, he outruns everybody. He doesn't get caught too much, and that's what you like to see from a back who likes to consider himself an every down back. You don't necessarily know if he can outrun opponents. Can he? He's not the slasher type, but and he likes the contact. He doesn't shy away from the contact. Can those type of guys outrun people? And with what you see on this film, he can do that. But at times when the blocking's not there, he shows his patience. He waits for something to open up, and he really tries to get upfield. And I think that's why I really like him a lot. He tries to get upfield. That's my biggest thing about a running back. Get the handoff, get upfield. That's why Jordan Scarlett didn't have a lot of success his freshman year. He wanted to dance around too much. What did we see this year? He gets the handoff, he gets upfield, and that really helped him get north and south. That's what I really like about Malik Davis if you go and watch his film there. So that was a little bit of recruiting profiles for Zachary Carter and Malik Davis. Like as I mentioned, two guys in the Tampa-Hillsborough area. If I had to choose one of those guys right now who would come in and play right away, I'd say Malik Davis a little bit with the transfer we mentioned of Jordan Cronkrite, so you lose it back there. If Florida doesn't get Adarius Lemons, Davis is coming in right away with a chance to get some playing time. So, and we know from Michael Pirine this year, Jim McElwain is nowhere near afraid of playing a true freshman running back, nor should he be. They're playing everywhere right now. So Florida's got a good one there, I think, and a little bit of under the radar. And I think some teams may, before February, come up and start offering him once they go and look at his tape. And we've seen that happen with Jim McElwain. Michael Pirine was one last year in the state of Alabama. Didn't have a lot of good offers, but then Alabama offered late. But, he stuck with his original commitment to Jim McElwain in Florida there. So, been Gators Breakdown, episode 28. Gave you a little bit of update on Jarret Stidham, talked about the Jordan Cronkrite transfer, and we also had some of our starting of the recruiting profiles, and we started with Zachary Carter and Malik Davis. So, guys, if you don't mind, just like I mentioned before, give this a share, a review on iTunes, and you can check this out on SoundCloud if that's easier for you. iTunes, if you have Apple device. If you don't have Apple device, I know SoundCloud is easier for you. And then for these YouTube videos, I know if you're like me and you have YouTube on your iPhone or whatever, you have to have YouTube up to listen to it. So that's why we put it out on SoundCloud and iTunes, because a lot easier. You don't eat up as much as your data. It doesn't lock your phone up. We know with just video, you can get those audio versions there and share them. And I'll post everything on Twitter as I'm David Waters. You can follow me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. You can like Gators Breakdown on Facebook. Post a lot of my thoughts on there as well, as many as my thoughts on Twitter. And a brand new Twitter account I just made for Gators Breakdown before something happened there where I wasn't able to. Something happened there. So Gators Breakdown Twitter. At Gators Breakdown just got started there, so you can go like it. There'll be a lot of the same content that I put on my personal Twitter feed at GatorDave_SEC and Facebook. So we can talk if you want to sit there and on Twitter and tweet at me. And believe me, I mean, if you sit there and follow me on Twitter already, you know that I'll sit there and interact with you and talk Gator football as much as I can. It's something I love to do. I know you guys love to do it if you're listening to this. And a lot of things going on right now. It is a lot of talking season since the season's kind of wrapped up. So a lot of things to talk about, a lot of opinions out there. My opinion's not always right. I know that, and I really just like going back and forth with people in a manner that's respectable for everyone. So GatorDave at GatorDave_SEC on Twitter if you want to interact with me. Thanks for checking out Gators Breakdown. This has been episode 28. And thanks for joining me, guys. We will see you later.